Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kwizera, one of the 3 PhD fellows. I'm happy that the previous presentation actually laid the foundation for my current presentation. My PhD work is mainly focusing on aspergillus sensitization and asthma in Uganda. Currently, in Uganda, asthma is one of those neglected diseases. We see prevalence rates ranging from 17 to 41 in different populations. Most of the work done is in the age group of 13 to 17 years. On the global scale, asthma is estimated to affect about 10% of all asthmatics, and about 33% of these have been shown to be sensitized at least to one fungus. Aspergillus fumigatus is the fungus to which most of them are sensitized. Some of them just get aspergillus sensitization, though for some reason others progress. They come down with allergic bronchial pulmonary aspergillosis. Others get severe asthma with fungal sensitization, and they usually cross over between these two conditions, because ideally someone with ABPA has severe asthma, and on the other side they are also sensitized to a fungus. So these two conditions, in most cases, may lead to reduced lung function and poor treatment outcomes, despite giving these patients standard of care for asthma. So we recently tried to browse the literature to see how much of the burden is fungal asthma in the African continent. And we found very interesting results. Actually received a travel grant from the Fungal Infection Trust to present these results at one of the international conferences in Nigeria. Ideally, we found that there are about, I think it's only 13 African countries out of the 54 that had some estimates about fungal asthma, and there were only 20 papers we found talking about fungal asthma. 12 of them were just review articles that were using modeling without any original data. We got an average of the prevalence of fungal sensitization of 28% and a pooled estimate of 23%. Which translated into more than 4 million cases on the African continent with fungal sensitization. And most of them were caused by Aspergillus fumigatus. We then estimated the burden of allergic bronchopulmonary aspergillosis at 2.5%, though most of these estimates were from the review articles, translating into about 437,000 cases. And similarly, for severe asthma with fungal sensitization, it was at 3.3%, which translated into about 577,000 cases among the African asthmatics. We did not find any data about the management of fungal asthma in Africa. There was no study that tried to evaluate the association between fungal asthma and asthma severity. Currently, the factors associated with fungal asthma remain unknown in the African context. We didn't see any data about mortality related to fungal asthma in Africa. We also didn't get any data about the burden of fungal asthma in children. There was no paper at all talking about fungal asthma in children. So at the end of the day, we noticed that there was a high prevalence of asthma, and it was increasing on the African continent. We also noticed a very big gap in data and epidemiological studies about fungal asthma on the African continent. But even with that gap, we managed to identify a high prevalence of fungal allergy. However, we questioned the estimates about ABPA and severe asthma with fungal sensitization, since they were all from review articles. So we noticed that fungal allergy is a significant but unestimated problem in asthma on the African continent. And there is a need to develop affordable and even more sensitive point of care tests to improve early diagnosis and even encourage screening programs for fungal asthma in Africa. We also recommended the need for studies to explore fungal asthma in children on the African continent. So after browsing the literature, then I tried to eyeball the database we have from the African Severe Asthma Program, where we recruited 821 patients for the Ugandan site. And my PhD is mainly focusing on the Ugandan side, where I'll be taking away 374 patients that fit my inclusion criteria out of the 800 21. But I tried to eyeball the whole database to get a feel of how it looks like. It seems we had more females recruited in this cohort with a median age of 31, and then age at first diagnosis 20. We thought that was very high. Rhinosinusitis was very common in this population. HIV was only 6%. Majority of them had never smoked. I think there was only one smoker, though most of them were using biomass for cooking, and very few are using kerosene. Ugandan asthmatics seem to be more sensitized to the house dust mites and the German cockroach. And then the fungal elements in this panel, we had a panel to allow allergens. That's Aspergillus fumigatus and the mold mix. They are also pretty prevalent in this population. So I tried now to look at the skin test versus asthma severity. 80% of Ugandan asthmatics reacted to at least one allergen using the skin test, but we didn't get any significant relationship between someone having a positive skin test and severe asthma. Then I pulled out the fungal elements. Aspergillus fumigatus. 41% of our asthmatics reacted to Aspergillus fumigatus, and we found more reactions in the severe asthmatics than in non-severe asthmatics. And those with a positive Aspergillus skin test were 1.8 times more likely to have severe asthma than their counterparts. I tried this on the mold mix. We had 38% of our asthmatics reacting to the mold mix, and these were 2 times more likely to have severe asthma than their counterparts. Then 27% of our asthmatics reacted to both Aspergillus fumigatus and the mold mix. And again here, the odds ratio went up to 2.2. There was more risk of getting the severe asthma when you added both of the allergens. So at the end of the day, the preliminary results we have by just eyeballing the whole database. We've seen there's a high prevalence of fungal sensitization among this Ugandan asthmatics. There is some evidence showing strong association between fungal sensitization and severe asthma. So currently, I'm soon to ship my samples, test the blood, and try to make a case definition for Aspergillus sensitization, allergic bronchopulmonary aspergillosis, and severe asthma fungal sensitization. This will cover my first objective for my PhD, where I look at the prevalence of fungal asthma. And then after getting the case definitions, I want to correlate this to the patient's demographics, characteristics, genetics, clinical, and then the social demographics, and then severe asthma, which will address my second objective. Currently, I've tested all the 374 samples for the Aspergillus lateral flow device, trying to validate it, hoping it may be, or it may give us an alternative point of care test for diagnosing these infections in this population. And then I've also currently tested 28 out of the 50 healthy controls or volunteers, which will cover my fourth objective. So far I've had one paper published out of the 5 that I anticipated from this PhD work. And so far I've finished the first 3 chapters of my thesis. So I'm hoping as the papers come in, I'll just populate it in real time. Currently I have all the necessary approvals from the Lung Institute, Mlago Ethics Committee, Department of Microbiology, National Drug Authority, the IRB, the National Council, and I have for registration. So far registered for 2 academic years. I have a pending material transfer agreement with the National Council. Hopefully next week it may be ready. In the last 1 year, since the last AGM, I've had 3 abstracts submitted to 3 international conferences for oral presentation. I've had 4 publications since then, and 4 are currently submitted. I've attended about 20 workshops. Most of them were local workshops. Some are for PhD students specifically. Others are just research workshops. And I think only 7 of these were international. and I was a facilitator for at least 5 of them. The most recent ones were the WHO's International Workshop on MESAU-MEPI, where we formed the Global MESAU-MEPI Working Group, and I was chosen to represent Uganda on this committee. And then the annual scientific conference of the Medical Society of Nigeria, where we formed the Pan-African Fungal Working Group, and me and one colleague from Gulu University were representing Uganda on that committee. I'm currently mentoring 4 students, 1 undergraduate and 3 postgraduates. I continue to engage the school I adopted. Last engagement was on 20th May. I'm expected to go there again on next Tuesday. In fact, I had to go there this Tuesday, but since we were in this meeting, we pushed it to next Tuesday. So for the next 6 months, I hope I'll have my material transfer agreement, ship my samples, test them, and within that time, I'm hoping to start writing the papers for Objective 3 and 4. And maybe as the opportunities come around, I may attend some international conferences. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. I think we'll do as we did in the session before lunch and ask all the panellists